It's been 3 weeks. How's KOC's play calling been thus far? Plus, who's got the best backup running backs in the NFC? That and more Vikes and Saints talkers. It's all coming up next on Superior Sports Talk.
KARE 11 sports anchor Reggie Wilson covers the Twin City sports scene non-stop. Luke Inman is ready to put him on the hot seat.
That's what you gotta do to me.
Instant analysis,
Yanked. Out you go.
post-game breakdowns, and red-hot takes.
The Timberwolves need a stitch.
Reggie and Luke give you a daily dose of Minnesota sports with Superior Sports Talk, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. And it starts now.
Back in the lab, Reggie and Luke back at it. Another episode of Superior Sports Talk presented by Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's your daily 30-minute breakdown of everything Minnesota sports. Find us streaming on your Roku or Amazon Fire Stick devices. Look out for our Locked On Sports Minnesota app there as well. That's Reggie Wilson on Twitter, at Reggie Wilson TV, and on KARE 11. Reg, Thursday today, one day closer to Vikes in London.
Yeah, I think I'm getting closer to convincing someone to let me be their check bag. Let's go to London, baby. Let's do it.
Hey, lots to get into, but first, remember, follow along Locked On Minnesota YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. And on Twitter, give us a follow at Locked On MIN. And remember, we're a podcast too, free and available, all platforms, Spotify, Apple, you name it, we got it. Tons of great choices over there. You got the Ron Johnson Show, the Football Party, and more. It's your one-stop shop with endless Vikings talk with local experts. Do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button and drop us a 5-star review. All right. To football we go. Vikes Saints in London, Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Here's the deal. Saints flew out Monday a.m., so they've been getting adjusted and settled in. Vikes taking a different approach. Here's their schedule according to Kevin Seifert. They hold their normal practice today at 11:45, wheels up to London tonight at 7 p.m. They close the curtains, they shut the lights off, they try to get some sleep. They wake up in London and land at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. They get settled in for a little bit, and then they practice 7.5 hours later, 9:30 a.m. London time. That's 3:30 Central Standard Time, or body clock time. So the whole point of this, leaving late, etc., was said to be about the longer you're over there, the more fires you have to put out. And I get it. I mean, it makes sense. Take as many problems out of the equation by leaving later in the week. Although it is kind of opposite to the traditional thing most teams do, like the Saints, who got on a plane, again, the very next day. I kind of like this way. I prefer it this way. Business trip, get in, get out. What's your thoughts on the Vikes game plan when it comes to the logistics of making the trip over the pond?
Yeah, our show producer, Matt, told us about how if you get there late, it doesn't necessarily mess with your game anyway. Like, it's been kind of shown in the past. And I think that I'm with you. It's a business trip. Like, I know there's a such thing as jet lag and all that stuff, but like, let's get over there, and not disrupt us, too much. Let's get over there, do what we have to do, get this game going, and get out of there. It's an unusual thing just because, like, they don't necessarily have the time coming back because you're playing again that next Sunday. So it's an unusual trip to take. They usually get that Tuesday off anyway, but it looks like they kind of forfeit a little bit of their Monday as well with travel time. So it's kind of weird, but I'm with you. It's a business trip. We'll get there as late as we can without disrupting, our guys and getting them out of any type of a rhythm. And yeah, we'll get it going. Traditionally these London games, sometimes it seems like it takes them a bit to get going a little bit. And I don't know if it's just players adjusting to it over there or what. It's funny. The Saints have been there since Monday. Who knows if that even really helps anything? Like, they're trying to get more comfortable and all that stuff, and they can go out there and be flat. You just never know.
I also thought it was interesting to find out most teams, when they go to London, they get the bye the very next week because obviously it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need a little breather
Yeah.
here now after going to London. They kind of pounded the table with the NFL and the schedule makers. And they said, we don't want
Mm-hmm.
our bye that early in the week. If you can, if you'll allow it, we want that bye week a little bit later. So they get the bye week, week 7, I believe, not right after London. So I thought that was interesting as well. Vikes won't have long to get acclimated to the settings, which again, I guess is the downside. But again, far less variables to worry about. Things pop up that you just can't plan for the longer you sit over there, I'm sure. Let's check in on the injury report. I mentioned yesterday, this is going to be a huge factor in Sunday's game. So keeping tabs on this one throughout the week. Saints, no Jameis, no Landry, no Michael Thomas, and missing 2 starting offensive linemen in Andres Pete and Ryan Ramczyk. Vikings, no CJ Ham, no Dalvin Cook, no Za'Darius, and still no Andrew Booth. If there was one guy for the Saints you could hold out to just better help the Vikings, who would it be on the list? And for the Vikes, if you could make sure one guy played and was up to speed, which player on that injury report would you want in the game the most?
Oh, look, if we're talking about Saints to miss, it's Jameis for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, get your starting quarterback out of there. You know, let's do this thing. Let's do this. Or if you're like, oh, okay, if you're gonna keep Jameis in there, he has the bad back. Maybe one of his starting offense, like Andrews Pete, like that would be really bad.
Huge.
For them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That'd be pretty bad. As far as the Vikings go, this is tough. I want to see Booth out there. I want to see Za'Darius out there because they need to get back to the sack. Was it the edge department?
Meet at the quarterback.
Get back to the sacks. Yeah, they need to get back to meeting at the quarterback. But I will say if they had to do without one, I think they could do without Dalvin Cook for 1 week because Alexander Mattison has shown that he can fill in well for him, and the offense doesn't necessarily have to miss a beat.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, man. I mentioned how worried yesterday I was about game planning against, oh no, now you got a game plan against this Andy Dalton, Taysom Hill packages combo. I think I'd rather just have Jameis, who's banged up, play. But the more I think about it now, maybe playing a backup quarterback in London, so many different factors going on, would be a huge advantage for the Vikes D. I'll go with Ryan Ramczyk, though, for exactly what you mentioned. Saints already missing their starting left tackle, James Hurst filling in there. To lose out on another Pro Bowl tackle would mean Hunter and that pass rush maybe could start feasting and warming up here. Who's ever playing quarterback? And for the Vikes, it's hard not to say Cook because he's such a game changer, like you mentioned, but I just got so much confidence in Alexander Mattison right now. So I'll say Za'Darius Smith. Again, getting your pass rush going against whichever quarterback plays is going to be vital for the defensive success. Although I'm just chomping at the bit to see Andrew Booth Jr. out there. This secondary just really needs a shot of youth and rejuvenation. I know he could help in a big way. What do you think about KOC thus far, just in general? Like a lot of expectations. Maybe the fans set the bar for this offense maybe unrealistically high right out the gate. Offense has not lived up to the hype on paper. Kirk Cousins has looked a little panicky, maybe a little lost at times, and JJ disappeared the last 2 games, although I will say in Philly, I think they just kind of clamped him down. What's your assessment of the first-year head coach through these first 3 games?
Fair. I think it's fair. He is doing the best that he can. This is a new situation for him. He's kind of learning a lot of things on the fly. One thing about Kevin O'Connell that I think we all can just appreciate is he is all gas, no brakes. You know, we talked about how aggressive Dan Campbell was on Sunday. Well, KLC wasn't necessarily let's go for 6 4th downs aggressive, but he's always going to be aggressive in that he's pushing things forward. He's pushing to the next thing. He's not just, going out there like, oh, let's try to do what we can, like 3rd and 10. He's not calling a RB draw. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to get after it each and every play. And I think I can appreciate that, how aggressive he is. When they had blood in the water after the missed field goal on Sunday, he pushed it. He pushed it down the field. And it worked out in their favor going into that touchdown. It was cool also, yesterday. I don't know whose idea it is, but back-to-back weeks now, or multiple weeks now, I guess they do it in wins, but multiple times now, they've had KOC on social media breaking down a play that made a difference. And yesterday, the Vikings posted him breaking down the game-winning touchdown. Man, that was so cool to watch. For one, I'm just like a football geek like that. If you can make me knowledgeable, if you can help me understand better, I'm all for that. And it's so interesting that he did that because, some coaches or most coaches, they're not trying to break down their concepts or their plays, for multiple people to look at and figure out, because now you're like, well, look, we might dial that play up again in the future. Like, we don't want to show them what we're doing, but like, it's the confidence that he has that, like, look, whether or not I diagram this play or not, you can't do anything about it. We're going to run it and make you have to stop it. He is calling plays and he is going out there as a head coach as confident as you could even imagine. And I think that's something that you enjoy about him. You're just like, look, this guy is like straight to it. He has some fire. Like, it was the first time we really saw some fire from him in that locker room speech after beating the Lions on Sunday. Like, this guy is as advertised, and I think he's only just going to get stronger as things go on because he's going to figure out more things. He's going to, he seems to be a student of the game as well. I think he's going to continue to grow in that role as he kind of just learns on the fly.
Third and long running a drop play. You just gave a lot of Vikings fans some PTSD, man. We saw that way too much under the Zimmer era. But yeah, I think you're right. It was foolish, unrealistic to think after 8 years under one philosophy, 8 straight years, don't turn the ball over, play conservative, lean on the run, let the defense do the heavy lifting. New playbook, new verbiage. It's going to take a few weeks. Kirk's also been known to start slow too. And actually, compared to the last 2 seasons, through 3 weeks, he's actually got better numbers. As far as JJ goes, if that's what the defense wants to do, take him out of the game, you just got to let him, and you got to make him pay with KJ and Thielen and guys like Irv Smith, Dalvin out of the backfield. That's just part of the process, man. I mean, that's just football. That's the NFL. Balancing out these chunk plays on film for defenses to see and have to defend against. JJ's time will come. He'll have plenty of monster games throughout this season. I'm sure of it. But when he's not, Kirk just has to find and use his other weapons to be efficient. I really don't put much of this offensive struggles on KOC early, personally anyways. I think the plays that have been called, pretty solid overall. I think it's just, again, part of the process of a brand new offense getting acclimated with each other. Now that the bullets are flying here, this ain't preseason, this ain't practice. 3 games in, I'm not too worried. I think they'll be fine. I want to check in on the vets. Not much rookie watch, as we've talked about quite a bit. No Scene, no Booth, no Asamoah, etc. How do you think the old guys have held up so far? Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Za'Darius, Thielen, Patrick Peterson, etc.
So far, so good. And I would say the leader of this clubhouse for the quote-unquote old guys is Jordan Hicks, man. Like, the dude is just so steady. He's a consummate pro. He goes out there. He just knows where to be every time. He's out there making tackles, blowing stuff up, running sideline to sideline. Like, why would anyone ever give that guy up? Like, it's kind of crazy to think about that. The Cardinals just found that he was expendable. Oh, yeah, how's that working out for you? Like, it always says, like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And it sounds terrible to think of someone as like trash because he's not. But man, like, he is as advertised. Like, he is the guy that they wanted to come in here and stabilize that linebacking unit with Eric Kendricks. You lose a guy like Anthony Barr, who was a stalwart on that defense for so long, a Mike Zimmer favorite, and you pick it up with a guy like Jordan Hicks, and you really haven't lost a beat. You really have seemed to go up a notch just because, Barr had some injury problems the last few years, and you're just like, look, you replace a guy like Barr with Hicks, and you're just keeping it moving. He and Kendricks just look like a great duo back there. Kendricks is a playmaking linebacker who is all over the field. He still has a lot left in the tank. And it looks like Jordan Hicks does as well.
Yeah, and I'll say on top of that, moving to a 3-4 defense, just more emphasis on linebackers. That was just so clutch and so important to go get another veteran linebacker who wasn't going to take half the season or 8 weeks to get acclimated. And I will say, too, everybody on defense looked pretty bad against Philly. And this guy didn't play last week, but in week 1, Harrison Smith just looked like the old Harrison Smith, man. He doesn't look like he's really lost a step. We'll see how Father Time plays a factor on his play on the field throughout the season, but so far, I think so good. Vikes start packing their bags for London today, their third trip over the pond. Team is 2-0 already in London, looking for their third straight victory, this time versus the Saints. Set your alarm clock, kickoff 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Plenty more Vikes NFL talk to get into. Next, we're getting into some Twins talkers, but first, Vikes Saints line keeps moving around. It was 2.5 to open. Now it's sitting at 3-point favorites for the Vikes as we speak. You can check those odds out and more with BetOnline, betonline.net. Fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Stats, news, and info. You want it, they got it. BetOnline makes betting easy and is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Go to betonline.net today to learn more. That's betonline.net. It's where the game starts. And remember, when you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota, you're getting endless Vikings talk with local experts. Sam and Ron talk football every day on the Ron Johnson Show. Reggie Wilson gives you a sports anchor's perspective right here on Superior Sports Talk. And the Minnesota Football Party brings together the top Vikings podcasters in the city. Subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed wherever you find your podcast. Drop us a 5-star review or find our videos on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. All right. To baseball we go. Don't look now, Reg. Twins just 11 games back in the Central race after that smackdown on Chicago last night, 8-4. It's been a while. I just thought we should just pop in on our Minnesota Twins here for a couple minutes. Quick thoughts on last night's game. What'd you see?
It's funny because in my intro to doing the Twins highlights last night on Care, I said it's funny what happens when there's no pressure to win, because all of a sudden the Twins are winning, but it doesn't really matter much. And so
welcome to Minnesota,
like, look,
baby.
Yeah.
It's a theme around here.
You know, it's funny. At the start of the season, if you would have said, hey, the White Sox are going to come into Minnesota and lose 2 of 3, you know, the next game or the third game is just, you know, a little bit away here. 12-10 start time for the closer of the series and the closer of Target Field for this season, which is tough. But at the start of the season, if you would have said like, hey, the White Sox are going to come in here and the Twins are going to blow their doors off in the first 2 games of the series, you say, oh my gosh, like that's great. That's exactly what we want. Because
we got something special cooking this year.
We got something going. We're going to the playoffs. That's right. And it's just like, no, that's not it. Not only are the Twins out of it, but the White Sox are out of it as well.
Yeah.
The Twins won last night, and now they and the White Sox have the same record, both going to the crib at the end of this season. Like, it's so crazy to see. Like, I don't think anybody thought that Cleveland would be like the winner of the division, but not only as this thing is played out, are they the winner of the division, they've run away with this thing to end the season. And it's just like, how did we get here? How did we get here? And it's like, all right, very, very convenient. Fine time for you to start winning now when there's not really anything to play for. And if I'm a Twins fan, that's probably the biggest part of my frustration. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. We know changes are not coming at the top. Falvey already said, like, hey, Rocco's my guy. We're combined at the hip. We're going to keep riding this thing out together. So nothing's going to happen as far as, you know, GM, president, manager situation. So what's going to happen? What's going to be able to like change for the roster? Because what happened this year cannot happen next year. Like, we can't see a slide like that, or else some heads will roll.
It's too bad because, fans 5-10 years from now, they're going to look back and say, all right, 2022 season. Oh my gosh, they were 11, 12 games back from the division. And you're not going to remember that they led this division for months and months and months. I like to keep tabs on some of the young guys. Rookie Matt Wallner last night, 3 RBIs. He looks solid, man. Just 24 years old. Nick Gordon, I like what I've seen. I've mentioned him quite a few times on the show. Maybe they get Royce Lewis back possibly at some point next year coming off that ACL. Which young guys do you think play a bigger role in this lineup in 2023? A lot to choose from when you look at this roster.
Yeah, if you're talking about bat, you talk about guys like Jose Miranda and, things like that. But I look at pitching. Bailey Ober pitched a gem the other night. And if they can get that type of production out of him moving forward, they would love that. And to me, the success of this Twins team comes down by far, in my opinion, to pitching. If they can get a good outing from Ober, Winder, guys like Louis Varland coming up and doing their thing in the rotation, this next season might be the year of the young guys, anchored by a young guy in Joe Ryan. And so I think those are kind of the guys that I look at. It's interesting with Matt Wallner coming in because, yeah, he's a young guy, but this team is loaded when it comes to outfield talent. And, I don't know if they do something like a platoon. I don't know how Wallner fits in next year when you have Garlick, Larnick, Buxton,
Kepler.
back there.
What's going on with Kepler?
Yeah. And then next year you're thinking about a guy like Kirilloff coming back. What position is he going to play? Is he going to play first base? When they inevitably kind of move on from Sano, I don't know what's going to happen with any of these young guys. They have a good problem to have, but the thing is who's going to be the most productive of those guys, because those are the guys that you want to play night in and night out.
A good problem to have. Again, just a lot of young guys here trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. You just really hope that one or two of them, though, can just take a big step forward and a big leap in their development progression to make things easy, to make it easy, to be like, okay, well, it's a no-brainer. We got to go with, Matt Wallner because look at what he's done as of late. Twins just 7 more games left before the 2022 season is in the books. White Sox tonight, first pitch, 12:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Not tonight. It's an afternoon game, as Reggie mentioned. All right, time has come. New favorite segments here called Gimme One. Just jump right into it. First one up, CBS Sports. You're going to love this, Reg. CBS Sports just dropped their way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. For the Vikings, they're picking at 22. They're taking a wide receiver from SMU, Rashee Rice. The Vikings love what they have in KJ Osborne, but it's time to get another receiving piece to draw attention away from Justin Jefferson. Rice is big and electric as a route runner and with the ball in his hands. If it was up to you, though, Reg, from what you've seen through 3 weeks, give me one position of need the Vikings should address early in the draft in 2023.
I'm not falling for it again. Not falling for the banana in the tailpipe again. We banged the drum last year on Jameson Williams possibly being the guy, and how it's
that's right.
How it's kind of shaken out is look, the guy that they did take in the first round, he's not playing early either. So you might as well have taken Jameson at that pick if he wasn't going to play early. But honestly, wide receiver is the furthest from their need. That would be drafting a luxury. They don't need a number 2 receiver. They don't need a number 3 receiver. They got those guys. After watching what happened on Sunday, they still put this article out and say that they need another wide receiver opposite of Justin Jefferson. Are you guys even watching the Vikings? What's going on here? Is that the best that you can do? Honestly, for me, it comes down to cornerback. They can never have too many. Patrick Peterson may not be back next year. You're looking at Andrew Booth possibly, coming up and being CB1 or CB2. His health is always a question. So in my opinion, I look at cornerback. They can never have too many of those guys. And if they can get one that's like a shutdown corner, that really helps in this Fangio / Donatel type defense where they can kind of put the guy out on an island. I look at something like what J.C. Horn is doing down in Carolina. Like he's
Stud.
locking some dudes up. Darius Slay, what he did against Justin Jefferson. Jeff Okuda coming back from his injury, what he did against Justin Jefferson. They need a guy that whenever you bring your number one guy, a guy that they're going to face on Sunday, Marshawn Lattimore, whenever you bring your number one wide receiver into the game, they have confidence that the guy that they're putting out there on him is going to win some. They may not win every matchup because that's just hard. These guys are professionals. They're really good at what they do. They're not going to win every matchup, but they're going to go out there and compete and win some of the matchups. Like, you can't be out there relying on some guys that are not necessarily good cover guys, because now your defense is just going to get picked apart. And I think from the first 3 games of the season, if you're talking about what they need, I see cornerback as the top of that. And it's really not even close for me.
Great minds think alike. I'm with you. I'm not even looking at the offensive side of the ball, whether it's offensive line, maybe tight end, I guess, but not in round 1. Receivers, no thank you. Quarterback, nope, not for another year at least. Running back, obviously, we're set. It's got to be defense, and I'm with you. If you go defense, if it's not, again, I really wanted Jordan Davis, that just run-stopping nose tackle. But that's really not a valued position early in the draft either. So if you're not going defensive tackle or D-line, I think you got to go secondary. Cornerback specifically. There's 3 good ones, too, specifically in this mock draft. Eli Ricks from Alabama. He transferred from LSU, so he's legit. Cam Smith from South Carolina went into the season arguably the number 1 quarterback in the country. And then there's a sophomore kid from Georgia, Khalil Ringo. 3 good cornerbacks. Obviously depends on where the Vikes land in the draft order, in the pecking order. And obviously it's way too early. Pre-draft combine, all that stuff is going to change things. But my point is, this may be a really good draft to add some talent, some young, fresh legs into this cornerback room as Patrick Peterson gets a year older. Cam Dantzler, maybe we're finding out, it's never going to be a true number 1 type of guy, but that's okay. In the NFL, pass-happy league, I've said it for like 7 years, you need 3 good cornerbacks in this league, because teams like the Vikings offense are just constantly going to spread you out with 3 wide receivers, if not 4 and 5. So having covered cornerbacks would be essential. And pairing a young guy up with Andrew Booth and even Lewis Seen, that help you sleep easy at night, knowing your secondary has a lot of young pieces to build towards for the future for sure. So I knew you'd love that, Reg, the 2023 mock draft. I knew you'd love that. I had to give you one. All right. Hey, that's a wrap today. Back tomorrow, breaking down more Vikings NFL. Remember, like, rate, review, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join us every day for another episode with your 30-minute breakdown of everything Minnesota sports. We're a podcast too, free and available, all platforms. Subscribe, leave us a comment, drop us a 5-star review. Take us everywhere on the go. That's the man, Reggie Wilson, on Twitter, at Reggie Wilson TV. Check him out every night up on Care 11. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter, at Luke_Spinman. Special thanks, producer Matt DeBritz. Tune in tomorrow to Superior Sports Talk, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Reggie, I'm Luke. Until tomorrow, signing out.
Be blessed. Spread love today.